How's it going, you guys? So it is crazy in New York because I just read a news story this morning saying that this whole ordeal surrounding this COVID-19 vaccine is bonkers, you guys. People are going crazy over the vaccine. Like, they have certain designated locations throughout New York where they are offering the vaccine in high numbers, right? But it's only by appointment, from what I understand. It's only by appointment. And so there was this news story on the cover. By the way, what happened to my newspaper? I think I left it at work. But anyway, I went to the office today to work, and I think I left it on my desk. But yeah, I saw like on the newspaper cover where people are going ham. People really trying to get this vaccine, and they are upset because the places that are offering the vaccine are running out of doses. And it's not so much they're running out, but they have a limited number of, limited supply, right, of vaccines available. And it's by appointment. I know some locations is first come, first served, so it's just like people did not get an appointment, but they're thinking they can just show up and get the vaccine. Now, I'm not getting the vaccine, by the way. My colleagues keep asking, are you going to get the vaccine? Are you going to get the vaccine? I'm like, listen, I've been in New York City. I moved back April 1st last year in the peak of the pandemic. I believe that I'll be okay. And yeah, the news story was just funny because the location which this story took place was at City Field in Queens. And they said that the vaccine was only available to Queens residents. This lady, apparently, she didn't have an appointment. So she got turned away, and she was just going bonkers, proving that she had, like, the paperwork to verify that she has pre-existing conditions. And she was like, I got the paperwork. And they got her on the front cover of the newspaper story, going crazy, you guys. And I'm pretty sure like they had the reporters out there recording this live yesterday. But anyway, let me get off my soapbox. So I just really want to come to you guys to show you guys some new paintings that I did and I feel really proud of. Check this out. So this is the Eye of Horus with an Ankh symbol right there in the middle. And I think the Ankh symbol actually is better than the cross. I know sometimes we try to paint a comparison between Christian symbols and Egyptian symbols or African symbols. And this symbol is indigenous to Africa. I think specifically to Egypt. It's an Ankh that represents eternal life. So I'm feeling it. I'm feeling the colors that I use. I always like to use bright colors. This was really easy to draw and to paint. It didn't give me much problems. So this is one. I actually did 4 this time around. You guys know, like, once I pick up my paintbrush, I be going in literally, and I can't put it down. So this is one of 4 that I did this time around. I worked on these actually this week. So this is another one. I like this one. Now this one actually was going to be the supremacy of God symbol, but something told me to do something different for this one, so I made it basically a symbol that's relatively similar to the one I'm going to show you guys next, which is a Sankofa basically, and it means return and get it. Now, the idea of return and get it can mean many different things to many different people. I think as African Americans, it means for us to just go back to the motherland, go back to our roots. Like, in order for us to progress, we gotta go back and get it. That's what Sankofa means. So this symbol is one of the few ways that they represent the Sankofa. I like it because it's in heart, and also like it's kind of in line with Valentine's Day. So you know, I like that. I just like drawing circles too. But yeah, this was originally gonna be a different symbol, the supremacy of God symbol, which I've actually created so many times. I think I have like at least 2 hanging up in my place. I decided to make it the Sankofa, and this is actually the traditional Sankofa right here. It's a bird, meaning return and get it. Go back to the knowledge. Go back and resurrect the knowledge of our ancestors, the teachings of our ancestors. Apply it, utilize it to for our day-to-day living and understanding of ourselves. Because it's important that we know where we come from. We know who we are. We know what we stand for. We know where we come from. So we got to return and get it. As you guys can see, the bird is like looking back, but his feet is facing forward. So the looking back is looking back at the ancestral knowledge, the wisdom that was given to us so that we could thrive off of today in order to go forward. His feet are facing forward. And you guys see the colors. I use red. Of course, there's black outline and green, symbolizing the colors of the Pan-African flag, which I actually was going to do a video on Pan-Africanism and the whole idea of us uniting as an African people across the diaspora on the continent and abroad. That's a very dynamic, complex ideology, I think, because I think ideally it sounds good for us to unite, but I think when you think about it, it's so difficult because there's so many different sects, there's so many different variety of black people across the world. I mean, just within Africa, how many tribes are there? Thousands of tribes, thousands of languages spoken, many different religions practiced, which that basically serves to separate us, I think. And even in America, there's so much diversity amongst black people. You have the Nubians, you have the Hebrew Israelites, you have people don't want to call themselves African American. They say they're Native American, or they just say they're an American. You got people, black people or melanated people who identify themselves as Moors, which recently I got into this whole debate with a Moor on a dating site. I'm like, listen, I'm here to date. You sitting up here want to go back and forth and argue. Because he asked me, of course, what my background is. And I said African American. And he's like, oh, African American isn't a nationality. I think he asked me what was my nationality. And I said African American. He was like, oh, African American isn't a nationality. And it's like, yo, sometimes dealing with certain sects or cliques, might as well call it gangs, right? These are different gangs. You know how gangs be like the Crips and the Bloods, just like, oh, what set you claim? And this is back and forth. It's just like, why can't we unite as a people? Why do we gotta go back and forth on some bullshit? I mean, I get where he's coming from. African American isn't a nationality, isn't a nation that you can claim. There's not a nation, right? African American nation that affords us certain rights and privileges, like there is when other people claim that they are from a different, nation or country, right? I'm like, I get it, but at the same time, it's still, I think it's important to identify with African and American because I'm born in America, but my ancestry is African. So I believe that that's a great identity to claim. But he's like, oh, you got to claim who you really are. I'm like, that is who I really am. I'm not denying my American heritage either. You know, I just think that people just get caught up in foolishness, and that's, I think, sometimes why we can't unite. You know, he's like, oh, well, you know, I'm a Moor, and I believe that we are the first people here, and we circumnavigated the globe, and all of this. I'm like, okay, so what are the advantages of being a Moor? Like, aside from knowing, you know, where you come from, knowing who you, what are the advantages? What are the political and economical advantages to calling yourself a Moor, right? He's like, oh, well, there are certain rights that are afforded to you, and if you don't claim that, I'm like, I hear you. I hear you. I hear you. But I just think that the labels, right? And I think from that conversation, it became like a back and forth. Like, it pissed me off, and I ended up just blocking the dude, yo. I blocked him because I'm like, I am getting annoyed. I'm getting annoyed, and I think it's pointless. I don't like to engage in pointless back and forth arguments. Like, we're not on the same page. Like, I feel like that's the reason why black people can't unite, because it's over foolishness, it's over labels. Why can't we just come together and agree and respect, okay, how a person identifies themselves? We don't have to agree on everything. You call yourself a Moor for whatever reason you want to claim that, then fine. I call myself what I want to call myself, then fine. We don't have to create this divide. And I think the irony to it is that we think identifying ourselves with certain sects, certain groups, is going to help strengthen us as a people, right? But at the same time, I think overall, collectively, it weakens us, because it does create a divide between us. How can we consider ourselves strong when we're going back and forth arguing over idiosyncratic fucking issues? Like, it's stupid. It's pointless. What does that solve? What does that solve to prove that, oh, you're Hebrew? Like, what is this Israelite? Or what does it solve to prove that you're Moor? What does it solve to prove that you're Native American? Like, that still doesn't fix the problems in affecting the black community in America. That still doesn't fix the marginalization, the segregation, the incarceration rates, you know what I'm saying, the homicide rates. That still doesn't impact the divorce rate. The fact that only 1 out of 4 black women get married in America. That still doesn't solve those problems, right? So I'm not really interested in that. That's the reason why I ended up blocking the dude on that dating app, because I'm just like, it's not getting anywhere. Like, can we put that aside and just relate to each other as human beings? I think people get so caught up in these teachings, these philosophies, and it's just like, who's to say that's right? And then he claims that he's Christian and Muslim, and I'm just like, we don't know who the fuck we are, right? We've taken on these religious beliefs that were man-made. He's like, oh, most of the things are man-made in our world. That still doesn't give you excuse to subscribe to these belief systems, right? And to prove and to try to impose that onto somebody else, to say that this is the way to live. Like, this is what you should believe in. That's what you believe in. I believe in what I want to believe in. That's why I'm a free-spirited person. I don't subscribe to any religion. I am free. And I like to study history. I like to study culture and the ways of our ancestors. Beyond that, though, I'm not just limited to, praying to the ancestors. Because some people, that's their only religion, right? I feel like I'm pretty much open to learning, to applying what I know, current information, current history, past history to my life, and just going forward, and being a better person. I don't have to put myself in a box, and I feel like religion is definitely a box. I love this bird. I think this is actually my first painting of an animal. When I think about it, I think this is my first painting of an animal. Because most of my other paintings are people and symbols. My first animal painting is a bird. And then this is the last one I did, you guys. I really love this one too, and the colors that I chose, just so vibrant. This motif of different patterns, different symbol patterns. Of course, it's African though. That's one theme you're gonna find consistent throughout my paintings. It's just everything is African, related to Africa. Going back to the motherland. That's also another reason why I choose to identify myself as an African American or an American African. However you guys want to say, because I know some people say, oh, well, you shouldn't call yourself an American because American. If you say African American, the African describes what kind of American you are. Basically emphasizing that you identify more so as an American than the African, because the African just basically denotes what type of American you are, versus if you describe yourself as an American African, the African would be the noun, which, you know, describes who you are. And the American basically would describe what type of African you are. I'm like, why are we trying to confuse the American, African American, whatever? It still says that you are an African, which is first. I think it sounds better to say African American, because the African comes first. But whatever. I like to identify myself as African American because it's just, I don't want to take out the African of my identity, and I feel like that's what Moorish people like to do. The Hebrew Israelites, they want to identify themselves as everything but African. To call yourself a Hebrew, it's like taking out the African. Even though, okay, you know your history, then you know everything goes back to Africa. Like he was trying to explain, like, oh, Moors, everything goes back to Africa, but it still takes Africa out of the equation. So I always like to keep Africa in the equation, even in my art, clearly, as you guys can see. And you guys know how I do, like, after I hold my art, because I like holding my art in my videos when I'm talking to you guys. So after I do that, I place it against the wall, flip the camera around so you guys can see what it looks like in actual orientation, because, you know, and when I'm live, the image shows up, we're in reverse. So I'm going to flip it around. I love it. Oh, and you guys, last time I went to Michael's, which was a couple days ago, I was so happy to see that they had my size canvas boards. They were in stock. I was like, that's very rare for Michael's. You know, they were fully stocked. They were fully stocked. So I was like, oh yeah. Oh. Yo, y'all don't get it. I don't understand. I be so happy when they have everything that I need in stock. I was able to get a new color paint too when I went, and some more paint brushes. I was like, oh yeah. So I bought 2 more. So that's 4 paintings I did this time around, which makes 39 total paintings I've done since I began this new hobby of mine with painting. And of course, you guys can see the one there in the back on against the wall. That was one of my first paintings I did. But I started painting back October, 28th, I think. So, September, October, November, December, January. 6 months? Has it been 6 months already? Gosh, time flies. I said that to myself even when my supervisor was like, you have been working with us for 6 months. I'm like halfway done with my pre-doc internship, y'all. It is unbelievable. It is like hard to believe, y'all. It's just too good to be true. Like how fast time goes by, and before you know it, I will be done. Your girl will be Dr. Leach. And people are already calling me Dr. Leach. I'm like, I mean, I appreciate the acknowledgement, but I'm like, you know, I'm not a doctor yet. I'm almost there. But I'm about to show you guys. I'm about to flip it on around and show you guys what this looks like. So, here's what my babies look like. And I love it. And I wonder, where am I going to hang these up? Oh, I might hang these over my couch. No, I might, let me see. I'll figure it out, but let me know what you guys think. Which one do you guys like the most? And look at me, that's me. Alright, I'm gonna catch you guys later. Look at my birdie, Sankofa.